Yo, I'm doing this to show you something. Everybody in the world is different. Everything that's transpiring right now, some people not listening to. Some people not observing things that going on. And everybody's opinion is different. But when you click with somebody, it's very important. Because everybody in this life needs emotional support. Some people would call me crazy for standing up in the rain recording for you guys. But trying to show you something with positivity and good beliefs. Everything does change. Yeah. Alright. Come in there shortly. Yo. And just like that, this video is actually being made with the intent of showing how close people connections are. And it's shocking. I already thought out about what I was going to do. And while I'm talking to you, my back getting went with cold drips. And that's just how emotion works. And quantum connectivity. The cold drips not bothering me because I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm thinking about. And I know exactly who I want to speak to and where I want to be. With that being said, look at this and tell me if I'm lying in anything I'm saying. And remember, body positivity comes from change that happens within. Mind, body, and spirit are all intertwined. So watch the energy that you have next to you at all times. So let's begin.
Have you ever thought about someone and 30 seconds later they text you or they call you? Or something crazy happens and you say like, wait, what are the odds of that happening? And most people shrug it off. Physicists call it coincidence. Skeptics pretend it doesn't mean anything. But what if it's not weird? And what if it's definitely not random? In physics, there's a phenomenon called quantum entanglement. It's where two particles become so deeply connected that when you change one, the other responds instantly, no matter how far apart they are. And once you understand this, you start to see why fear spreads so fast, why the world mirrors back your beliefs with such precision, why certain patterns keep repeating in your life, and how you can literally shift dimensions by changing what you're entangled with. Today, I'm going to explain quantum entanglement in a way that finally makes sense. And then I'm going to show you how to use it to change your reality, your money, your relationships, your possibilities, your life. This is quantum entanglement, finally explained. Let's get into it.
What if you could flip a hidden off switch and instantly shut down any narcissist control? They've hacked your emotions, but today you take back the power. There are three things you need to know if you have a manipulator in your life right now. It's an acronym called FOG, FOG. Manipulators will use one of these three methods to get what they want. So let's talk about what that acronym means. F is fear, O is obligation, and guilt. So now you'll be able to categorize them when you hear manipulators speak to you. Next, one more thing you need to be able to determine is what the manipulator is seeking. You'll always be able to spot one of the four kava signs, C-A-V-A. This is about what they are trying to gain. And this is control, approval, validation, and attention.
Yo, so another thing that transpires also is when people in a relationship and they don't realize they're getting controlled in any format at all. And furthermore, when you tell them about that situation, they tend to get upset and furthermore make a scene to make you not speak about it because they know what they're going through is who they have emotions for or maybe in a relationship with. And if you think I'm joking, it's very clear signs that are always showing, but they never want to understand or make out the fact that they're being manipulated. This is real important because trust me, right now in Trinidad and Tobago, it's going on very frequent. And just like that bread van passing, this is how loud the situations showing up of the negatives around them, and still they don't want to show, and they rather make a scene to push you out of their lives to be okay in the relationship that they're still persisting in. Mind you, these people come in a very smart way and make you feel emotions towards them. Understand what I'm saying? No? So observe this.
What is a PSYOP? Psychological operation is a strategic effort often conducted by governments, military organizations, or other groups to influence the emotions, the beliefs, attitudes, and behavior of a target audience. The goal is typically to gain an advantage, shape public opinion, disrupt opposition, or achieve a specific objective without direct confrontation or force. Keyword, without direct confrontation or force. Think about the power of that. So before I tell you the different types of psyops, let me tell you what this Edward Bernays guy that wrote a book called Propaganda that everybody needs to read. He was a father of public relations and father of spin. He said this one time in 1928. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. What? Wait for it. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible, listen to it, an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. Invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. What he's trying to say is that whoever knows how to run propagandas, you may not know who they are, they're faceless, but they're more powerful than a president, than a governor, than billionaires, than any of the rich people out there that are very public. Very interesting.
And here we have the most dangerous one. We have the one that people don't like to hear about because they just realize it does affect them the most in life, with fake friends or the relationship.
Hey everybody, today I want to talk about the Stockholm Syndrome, also known as trauma bonding, and why this is important if you have been in a narcissistically abusive relationship, or what to look out for when you suspect that someone that you know is in one of these relationships. The Stockholm Syndrome came from a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden, where they found that the people who were captured ended up developing empathy and a sense of almost like wanting to defend their abuser, falling in love with their abuser, with their captor in this situation. And you can see how this applies to narcissistic abuse, to so many different situations, but in particular narcissistic abuse. Why? Well, Stockholm Syndrome has 4 criteria. The first one being there's a perceived threat to your life, where the victim feels like the abuser or the captor could in fact kill them. And this might be a physical threat. They feel that they're actually going to die. They're going to kill their body. It might be a psychological threat. They might just fear that they're going to die. It might be a sense of like soul death, where they're destroying your soul, or a sense of identity theft, where they are destroying your entire sense of self. The second criteria of Stockholm Syndrome is an act of kindness. When the captor or abuser extends a small offer of kindness to the person being held hostage, to the victim in the relationship, that perceived kindness then tricks the brain, confuses the brain. The third criteria of Stockholm Syndrome is the isolation, where the captor or the abuser has isolated the victim or the hostage from the perceptions of other people. And this is a classic abuse maneuver where the abuser will always isolate the victim. They will triangulate people in your life away from you. They will make you jealous or paranoid or afraid of people in your life, people who actually care for you. They will physically isolate you. They might move you to a new place in some way, like get rid of your cell phone, somehow isolate you from connecting with the outside world. Or it might just be this very covert kind of manipulation where, you know, say you spend most of your time with this abusive person, and like the rare times, like the one time or the rare times when you make plans to go see a friend, a sister, a brother, a cousin, someone who actually cares about you, you want to go do something with other people, they will purposely sabotage that. Like before you're going out, they will make you so upset that you either lose it and you feel so horrible that you can't even leave the house and you can't go out, and then they get you because they keep you stuck at home. Or you do go out and then you feel so horrible while you're out that you can't have a good time, you can't really connect with the other person, and you're so fearful that you don't actually tell them what's going on. And these kinds of things will happen a lot. So there's that isolation aspect where they don't want you to hear other people's perspectives, because other people who are healthy, who are looking in on that, who actually care about you, they will call this out. They will recognize the signs of this. The fourth criteria for Stockholm Syndrome is the perceived inability to escape, where the victim, the hostage, feels like there's no escape, there's no way out. This is where the learned helplessness comes in. The victim feels like it's hopeless, like they can never get out. You know, maybe they got roped in financially to this person. The abuser didn't want them to get a job, or told them to quit their job, or sabotaged their reputation at work and they lost their job, or just maybe they're self-employed, they're an entrepreneur, they have their own business, and they just feel so crappy because of all this abuse that they can't put that energy into their business. The business is failing. They don't have the financial resources to get out. It could be a legal thing. Often when I hear from men, it's usually because they're in a relationship with a very toxic partner and they have children with this woman, and the whole system is set up against the man. The system is set up against the man admitting the words, "I'm being abused at the hands of a woman." It's set up such that the man does not get help from domestic violence shelters. It's set up such that the man already has a huge battle ahead of him in the family courts, which tend to take the side of the woman, and they just don't realize that there's abuse taking place. So I hear this happening a lot, where people just feel this sense of helplessness, like they can't get out. They feel like they can't get out. And that's another part of feeling like you're trapped in this Stockholm syndrome, in the trauma bond. The Stockholm syndrome, the trauma bond, this is why people can't leave. This is why they keep going back, why they get sucked back like a rubber band effect. Like they get away and they're doing great, and you're talking to them and it's amazing. They have no contact with the abuser, and then all of a sudden they hear from the abuser, and it's like that rubber band effect. They're right back in that relationship, and you're going, oh my God, all that progress, all that time that you got away, what happened? Stockholm syndrome is what happened. This is a primal defense mechanism to survive. Right? It's like this is the primal method that the human brain and the nervous system reacts in these kinds of situations to keep you alive. And the hook here, like the real hook here, is that kindness, the perceived kindness. So, that goes along with that intermittent reinforcement, where at first the abuser idealizes and love bombs and gives you all this positive stuff. And then they start in with the devaluation, with the meanness, the cruelty, putting you down, all of that kind of behavior. But then they're very careful to keep dosing you with those little things of kindness. Like maybe you come home and they went out to your favorite restaurant and they brought you that food, or they brought you your favorite drink, or they offered you, a ride to the airport or something like that. They offer to help you in some way. And that's where it gets really tricky. Do not accept help from people that you know are abusive, because that help always comes with an ulterior motive. Abusive people know that if they extend a small perceived kindness, which they don't care about, they don't mind doing that. They don't mind being all fake and pretending like this is something that they want to give to you. Like they just put that ego totally aside. Like there's no pride there. They're happy to help you. Why? Because they know it's going to hook you. They know if they do something kind, if they give you one of these gestures and you need their help especially, they know that they got you. So be really cautious with that. I think the worst part about the Stockholm syndrome is that what it really reinforces is that no one believes you, and especially if you're involved with one of these covert types of narcissists where, they're not overt, they're not out there, they're not out in the open about their narcissism, they're not bragging about their narcissism. In the community, they're pretending to be like this very exemplary figure, and everyone admires them and looks up to them and thinks amazing things about them, and maybe they appear to even have some kind of like normal role in the community, or like some kind of leadership position at work, and then maybe you're the person at work that they target, and nobody wants to believe you because everybody else only sees the great parts about this person. Or you're in this relationship, maybe it's an intimate relationship with this person, but like everybody else in society thinks they're amazing and they don't want to believe you, and it just reinforces this whole thing of feeling so alone. And you feel so alone, you feel so isolated, because when you do share that with people, when you try to tell people what's actually going on, nobody wants to believe you. And this just becomes very, very damaging to the psyche of the victim, because if you go out there and you tell people and people are like, you're just overreacting, I'm sure you're just imagining that, you're blowing it out of proportion, you just can't let it go, and they say these things, and then if you start internalizing that and start to believe that, that is very damaging to the healing process, because the healing process has two things at the very foundation foundation. One is safety. You have to feel safe, not just in your physical environment, but also in your emotional environment. And that means, are you able to be truthful with yourself? Are you able to be around people that you trust, that love you, that have your back? Do you have your back? Do you feel safe with yourself? The second one is truth. Truth is what set you free. Truth is what helps you realize what happened and make sense of what happened, understand what happened. And sharing that truth with other people is paramount to the healing journey. That's why you need to have a support network, people who get it, people who understand, people who validate you, not like the societal temptation and pattern, which is to blame the victim for what happened, and if you're hanging out with people who won't allow you to speak your truth, if you're hanging out with people who don't believe your truth, you're setting yourself back from healing. You need to get away from those people. You need to be around positive people, uplifting people, unconditionally loving people who support you in your truth and help you heal and get better.
So is the last dangerous one? The children, as in your offspring, not yours per se, but somebody else's offspring, treating their mother like shit and manipulating them. Now, this not happening in one household, This happening all over. Because trust me, the thing about it, I just be in such a way that I get stories and stuff. I don't ask anything of anybody. But what's going on in a general consensus all over the country is very interesting. So what's going on? Manipulative children don't need to be a certain age bracket, They just need to know that they could control their mother in many, many ways. And this sometimes, and most of the times, will be the downfall of these good women. Because the thing about it being soft and not using the rod and sparing the child, that's causes real problems. Whether they come into criminals or they come into perfect narcissists, there's the problem that we're facing right now in Trinidad and Tobago. So imagine all this going on during an economic depression. Think about what I was saying. Because everybody has stresses, and the shoulders are mothers that definitely always face it. So look at this.
I'm a psychologist, and here's 4 signs you're being manipulated. Number 1, they undermine you relentlessly or get you right where it hurts with a very personal attack, and then follow up with something like, I'm just saying, don't overreact. Not just once, but repeatedly over time. Number 2, they do things for you, maybe even things you didn't even ask for, and then use that as currency to get you to do what they want you to do. So every act of kindness seems to have strings attached. Number 3, they might dismiss your problems and play up their own with things like, oh, you think you've got it bad, try being me. Number 4, playing the victim role. They refuse to take responsibility for themselves and then ask you to do things for them that you wouldn't normally say yes to if you thought they could do it for themselves.
You don't care about me. You don't love me. You care about the other kids more than me. If you love me, you would let me do this. Those are all highly effective things kids with ADHD say when they are trying to emotionally manipulate their parents to get what they want, and often that is highly effective. Cognitive flexibility, so the ability to be adaptable, be able to move on, is one of the core executive function skills. So keep in mind, ADHD is an executive function developmental delay, so it's really normal for kids with ADHD to have a propensity to get stuck, particularly when they're not getting what they want. Also, a lot of kids with ADHD tend to be highly creative and figure out ways to get what they want, and they also have a strong sense of justice, so if you're not giving them what they want, then they're going to get back at you for it. This is why emotional manipulation is such a powerful tool they use on parents, because they learn that I can evoke my parents' guilt or worry, or at least make them feel bad if they're not giving me what I want. I know that many of you get easily triggered when your child uses emotional manipulation on you, and that's okay. And you have to learn how to put up an emotional boundary with them so they learn that emotional manipulation is not going to work on you. Whenever I talk about this, parents always ask questions like, well, what if she does really hate me? Or what if he really does hate himself? So what he said was true. And here's my response to that. You don't respond to emotional manipulation with reassurance, saying things like, no, but I do love you. And you don't respond to emotional manipulation by getting pulled into the argument, reasoning, or negotiation vortex. What I mean by the vortex is often when parents are triggered emotionally by their child, then they start trying to reason with them or negotiate with them because deep down, they want their child's approval. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with you wanting your child's approval, but you have to accept reality. You're not always going to get it, and all feelings are temporary. So when your child is upset or angry with you, that's going to be temporary. And even if they say things like, I'll never speak to you when I'm an adult, they don't mean that, I promise you. If your child has a propensity to use a lot of emotional manipulation on you, I suggest you check out Scaffolding Better Behavior, the ADHD Dude Parent Behavior Training Program, where I teach parents how to deal with emotional manipulation, as well as learned helplessness and noise, which is my term for arguing or complaining for the sake of arguing.
As usual, Trinidad and Tobago, I love you guys with a passion. Deuces.